What if dinosaurs invented artificial intelligence? Hi, I'm the Slavic Witch. Welcome to the channel. I'm glad you clicked, even though the title sounds bonkers. It will all make sense eventually. So let's get into it. What if the asteroids never hit the Earth 66 million years ago? Some dinosaurs had relatively small brains, but others were surprisingly intelligent. Troodontids had large brains relative to their body size, excellent binocular vision, excellent hearing, and they were fast, agile hunters. Their brain to body ratio was one of the highest, not human level, but still impressive. In the 1980s, a Canadian paleontologist named Dale Russell wondered what would happen if troodontids kept evolving for another 66 million years. There's nothing magical about mammals. Evolution doesn't have a goal. If the asteroid hadn't struck, natural selection simply would have just continued. Humans aren't the only intelligent animals either. We've got octopuses, dolphins, crows, parrots, and each of these evolved impressive intelligence independently. Personally, I think dolphins might be secretly smarter than people. They travel whenever they want, they eat fish, they don't have currency, so they don't need jobs. They're free. I'd rather travel and swim with my kids all day than spend most of my days getting up at 6 a.m. and not seeing them until almost their bedtime. So bringing it back to the dinosaurs. Would they have built a civilization? That is a much harder question. To build technology, you need more than intelligence. You also need hands or something similar. Social behavior, communication, curiosity, the ability to manipulate objects. Fire is actually a huge hurdle. Without mastering fire, metallurgy becomes impossible. And no metal, no computers, no rockets. Asteroids have definitely changed the future of civilization. If they'd never hit, would humans even exist? Dinosaurs could have kept diversifying, and so could have other species. So the asteroids might have determined who gets to ask questions about the Earth and the universe. All of human history might not even have existed at all. Art, music, TV, none of it. You and I wouldn't exist, not because intelligence never evolved, but because a different type of intelligence might have taken our place. When Dale Russell was asking all these questions about the troodontids, he worked with an artist to create a speculative creature that he called Dinosauroid. Most scientists don't think it's very realistic. It's too influenced by humans, and it assumes that intelligence would eventually take on a humanoid form. So they kind of look like a weird green alien, standing on two legs with hands that have like 3 fingers. Just kind of weird looking creatures. And it's probably not true because intelligence can take many forms. But I think what led Dale to this particular conclusion is that he noticed something interesting when he was studying one of the smaller dinosaurs that was referred to as Troodon at the time. He found that it had a relatively large brain, forward-facing eyes, grasping hands, and it was probably an active predator at the time. And that kind of led him to ask, if these dinosaurs hadn't gone extinct, would they have continued evolving larger brains? Now, fast forward to 2021, scientists didn't simply dismiss Russell's ideas. Instead, they kind of just revised them using everything that we've learned in the past 40 years. A paper, Art, Anatomy, and Stars, Russell and Seguin's Dinosauroid, isn't really about intelligent dinosaurs, but more about why Dale imagined it that way, why he imagined a humanoid form for them. And the authors of that paper point out that his reconstruction reflected the 1980s thinking that evolution naturally tends to follow like a human body plan. Today, most paleontologists think that that assumption is too anthropocentric. A more biological perspective is seen in revisiting Russell's Troodontid. The authors examine what Troodontids were really like, how they probably behaved, whether they may have used simple tools, and what their ecology tells us about their evolutionary potential. Importantly, they don't conclude that civilization was inevitable. They're kind of just exploring what these animals were capable of. A 2023 paper called Could Theropod Dinosaurs Evolve to a Human-Level Intelligence asks whether their brains were actually organized in a way that could facilitate human-level intelligence. The author of that paper argues that although theropods had relatively large brains, the structure of a dinosaur and a bird brain is very different from like mammalian brains. And so he suggests that this may have made human level intelligence much less likely to evolve. He doesn't prove that it was impossible, but he does argue that it wasn't very likely. But then again, many biologists also think that primates developing this level of intelligence was unlikely. And yet here we are in the flesh, making YouTube videos about complex topics that make our brains hurt. Was that destined to happen? Or was it just one astonishingly improbable outcome among like millions of possibilities? Evolution doesn't aim for intelligence, or civilization, or space travel. It simply favors traits that allow organisms to leave more offspring behind. For most of Earth's evolution, being intelligent wasn't really the main route to success. Sharks have existed for over 400 million years. Crocodiles have changed very little in the last 200 million years. And beetles are one of the most successful groups of animals ever, with hundreds of thousands of species. None of those evolved human-level intelligence because they simply didn't need to. Something that all of these papers kind of have in common is that they ask a deeper question. Was intelligence an inevitable outcome, or was it kind of just a lucky accident? Would somebody else have invented the telescope and looked up at the stars wondering if they're alone? Would their technological advancement resemble ours? Or would it be completely different? Would their AI be like ours? Or maybe even better? And possibly one of the most important questions of all, if dinosaurs did take our place, who would have invented Star Trek? And what would they have done about the Voyager episode where Janeway and the crew find intelligent dinosaurs who fled the Earth? Who would be in that episode instead? Intelligent primates who fled the Earth from dinosaurs that kept trying to eat them? I don't know how likely any of that is, but it's kind of fun to think about. Obviously, all of this is complete speculation, and even if the asteroids didn't hit, doesn't necessarily mean that humans definitely wouldn't exist, although it would definitely be harder. I feel like running from dinosaurs day in and day out would have slowed us down a little bit. But I do love a little bit of ridiculousness mixed with a little bit of science, you know? I'd love to hear thoughts from anyone else about this or any other kind of video I've made. If you feel like it, leave me some comments. I will read them all. Bye!